Ewing is a worldwide research leader with IBM specializing in Watson artificial intelligence for talent. He regularly works with IT and HR leaders to share the art of what's possible and, most importantly, staying on top of where AI needs to be implemented. He works with IBM and other organizations' HR function by implementing agile methodologies and 10-plus technologies. A little on Ewing's background. Ewing attended Ole Miss, where he finished in the top 7% of the business school, graduating with a degree in Management Information Systems, and was a fraternity president. From there, he pursued an MBA with an emphasis in HR management and services at Purdue. Ewing then began his professional career working more than a handful of years for Cummins. At Cummins, he went from intern to director in various roles ranging from software procurement to corporate recruiting, working in various locations from Indiana to Beijing. He also received a Six Sigma black belt while working there. He then spent some time in sales at a couple of startups before starting at IBM. Ewing and I discuss how his upbringing impacted him, his time at Ole Miss, getting his MBA, receiving a Six Sigma black belt, what's more valuable, the MBA or black belt, how businesses should look at sales and changes they should make, the power of AI and what can be done with it, what AI will do to our job market, and more. For more information on Ewing, find him on LinkedIn. If this podcast impacts or speaks to you, please share it and leave a review. And as always, follow More You Know Pod and Riley RM4 Tech on social media.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
The
More
You
No
Podcast.
So then I saw you went to Ole Miss. So what was the college experience like for you, and what type of takeaways did you get from it?
Ole Miss was an escape from baseball.
Okay.
First went to two different junior colleges. I was a pitcher. I grew up playing shortstop, and for some reason, pitching was what got me into the collegiate ranks. I would have rather played shortstop for sure. And I found out that I was finally, sick of baseball. And so I followed my best friends from high school to Ole Miss. That was like, it just was so incredibly social. I know many colleges are, but I feel like there's something magical about Ole Miss, and just all the different variety of social activities. It's very Greek heavy. It's very fraternity and sorority driven. I think it's when I was there, it was the second most Greek school per capita, and only Miami of Ohio at 34% had more Greek students than we did. So
Okay.
that just brings organization, really. There's a lot of negative connotations to that as well. But as a first year pledge, if you will, I set a goal to be president, and I achieved that goal, and drove some change that last year. And Ole Miss was awesome. There's truly nothing like it. Now it's not a secret anymore that we have the best tailgate in the nation, and people come from all over the country to see it, and we live up to the expectations every time. I've never met anyone that went that didn't have that. Wow, this is really something. So
I've heard the same thing. I know people so I'm raised in Northern California area, people who've come out to visit their college friends are going to Ole Miss just to see the tailgates and experience that. So
yeah.
With the fraternity, you were talking about how that was a valuable thing because it's teaching you sort of organizational skills and some leadership skills, I'm sure. What were some skills and some experiences that you took away from that impacted you down the road with working?
Yeah, well, recruiting and sales, right? So that experience, for a number of years in a row, it's recruiting and sales. You're recruiting new members, you're giving them a pitch, and they react to your pitch, and you evolve your pitch, and innately you're calculating how you're doing, whether you're writing it down or not, and refining it. And those two skills you use it in every job.
Ewing deciding to follow his best friends to Ole Miss and partake in Greek life was something that he not only enjoyed but found benefit in. He set a goal as a freshman to become president of his fraternity and did so. Along with that, he learned sales and recruitment skills through the fraternity, which he applied professionally down the road. While many people discuss receiving benefits from participating in Greek life when it comes to relationships and networking, Ewing brings up a brilliant point of the skills that can be picked up through the organizational nature of a fraternity. Fraternity and sororities are really organizations like a corporation, where members are given roles and responsibilities that provide a learning experience when it comes to various aspects such as leadership, sales, recruiting, event planning, budget, and so much more.
I'm starting a team at IBM right now, and we're bringing HR backgrounds into sales,
Oh,
and
interesting.
somebody told me that that's going to fail, and I hear that a lot, from external folks that have a pure sales background, because they said the ramp time will be too high, and the HR folks don't know how to ask for the deal, and all of these things, right? And what they're missing is that we sell to HR, and so the understanding the buyer's problems, right, and really being clear about who you can help and who you can't help based on their strategy. An HR person has the ability to uncover that faster than any sales professional. And so it's an interesting concept. And what I also said back to some of those folks is, I know you think selling software is hard, but try convincing someone to move their family and their children out of the school they love to a different city to take a job that they're uncertain about. If you think selling software is hard, go do that.
Yeah.
And then you'll find a visceral, emotional thing that you have to overcome. Changing out your CRM is not as emotional.
Yeah.
There's emotion involved, but changing your kid's school and going from a private school to no private school where they're learning Spanish and now they're not learning Spanish, that is a big deal. And if you can drive that kind of change, you'll find that sales is actually an easier thing, not a harder thing.
It's really interesting what Ewing is working on when it comes to building a sales team and his view on sales. The team Ewing is currently building for IBM Watson Talent is something that should be in the spotlight. His focus is on building a sales team that is based on the perspective of the customer by having a potential customer as the centerpiece of the sales team. Having other sales professionals as a part of the team solidifies the necessary skill sets, but they are all able to work together with the focus of what the customer's needs truly are because they have someone who understands their needs on the team. Having someone who shares the background of those who are purchasing your product or service not only creates a better sales team, but also enables a better experience for the buyer. Having someone who truly understands the customer can expedite and enhance the sales process, which is ideal for both sides. Nowadays, especially when it comes to businesses purchasing a product or service, buyers prioritize research and have made a decision before interacting with a sales professional. They do not want or need to be sold and rather need to share a conversation with someone to ask the questions most important to them to ensure the research that led to the decision they are looking to make truly makes sense. People would rather buy from themselves, and he wants to start to show this and open up the door for many different job roles to get into sales.
I think that there's got to be a rise of a trusted broker. There's 7,100 marketing and sales technologies, just marketing and sales. There's 7,100. And I don't know anyone that knows 50. So if your career is on the line and your organization's success is on the line based on the technology choices you make, then you've got to find a way to get good at buying technology.
Definitely.
And there's no way to evaluate 7,100. There's no way to really even evaluate 100. So how are you going to get your short list? And if your short list is based on everyone else's short list, do those organizations have your problems?
Ewing brings up a great point regarding a trusted broker for software who evaluates and organizes different products and services. Standardization is the death of innovation. We live in a world that has become standardized from a technological standpoint due to awareness, not the lack of ability to be more individualized. This is something we see with social media, email software, and other various consumer and business apps. He believes we are becoming too standardized with our usage of technology and applications, but that this is something that's going to shift in the near future. And I could not agree with him more. As he said, there are thousands of different software applications, yet we choose to only use a handful. This goes for both the consumer and businesses. The freedom that comes with software as a service, or SaaS, provides flexibility to tailor what applications you use specifically to your needs. As we find ways to better determine and share what works best based on those thousands of options, we will stray from standardization when it comes to the applications we choose. Having consultants and organizations like Capterra or G2 Crowd are beginning to create this strong, trusted broker community, and it is of absolute benefit to utilize these resources.
Developing outbound recruiting strategies, which by and large, have led to the most success. Look at Google, look at Facebook, look at Amazon. All of them have over 2,000 recruiting professionals. And that's actually more than we have. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you that their solution to the problem is to throw bodies at it. Now, they can afford to do that because they're in oligopoly or almost monopolistic industries. I mean, when you think that Google has 89% of search or something like that, yeah. That's crazy. That's a monopoly, but there's 11% keeping them honest, so to speak. So they don't, it's the courts are not saying it's a monopoly, but 89% is a lot. That creates a margin capability to invest like that. Most organizations don't have that luxury, right? But the answer to the problem is, and most of my colleagues would say that those brands have, they would put our brand in the mix. They would put Microsoft in the mix. They would put maybe Intel and a few others in that mix, that they have great brands that people want to work for. But if you ask them, they hire almost nobody that applies. So all this work around generating inbound, they hire almost nobody that applies to them. And I bet you most organizations would kill just to have their inbound flow. Definitely. And to have access to that talent. And so this amazing phenomenon keeps happening is we keep rebuilding websites and we keep doing employment branding projects, and we put a new skin and we have a new EVP and we say life's great here, and it doesn't change the fundamental problem that the better people need a tap on the shoulder. They need someone to reach out to them. And so if that's how they're winning, then if you get busy trying to replicate what they're doing, which we've done, by the way, at IBM the last couple of years, we've raised source contribution from outbound in our agile teams, right? So we have an agile recruiting methodology. We've raised outbound sourcing contribution from I think something less than 2% to 26%, and that transformed our organization, transformed it, and all the metrics, all the KPIs, everything completely different than before. You can't sit around and wait.
Ewing brings up something very interesting regarding how successful recruiting and job acquisition occurs for most companies. Most people hire and find the most success hiring outbound recruits rather than inbound recruits. What this means is that most people are hired, and the best people hired are found through research and the company reaching out to them rather than the applicant reaching out directly to the organization. Nowadays, in order to find the top-level talent that fit best in such a competitive job market, they must be found and pursued. Amazon, Google, IBM, and Intel all understand this focus on outbound recruiting. Intel virtually never hires someone that applies to work with them, and rather hire from people they find through research or word of mouth. This is something that is good to also understand for those looking to get the best job or finding a job in general. Most companies, especially the best, are focused on finding the people they hire through outbound recruiting and will most likely not hire you if you directly apply to them through inbound recruiting. So you got your MBA at Purdue, and I'm curious from your perspective, because there's a lot of people, it's kind of divided where people think it's really valuable and then other people think it's not so valuable, and the experience and the knowledge that you could gain from books and just investing time into knowledge is more valuable than the investment in an MBA. What do you think about that? And do you think it was a good investment? Do you think it was worthwhile, or do you think you ended up getting more out of your experience early on?
So it's situational. And for me, it was a no-brainer because Cummins never would have hired me if I wasn't on campus at Purdue. There's a little magical thing that still happens. And that magical thing is that companies go to MBA schools and they recruit the full-time day students. They hardly ever recruit the night students. So there's a really big difference between immersing in the day program and going full-time versus doing it at night. When you do it at night, your company is usually paying for it or subsidizing it. You already have a job. And it's really just about knowledge. And that knowledge is still valuable. And it's still valuable to have people to bounce things off of and to be able to fail and learn in a protected environment away from your organization. So that's still valuable. But for me, there's no way I would have ever landed at Cummins had I not been in the full-time Purdue day program. Cummins has been hiring from Purdue for 30 years in the MBA program. lot longer than that for the engineering program. So to me, that's the most valuable thing for those full-time programs, is that the companies come to you. All you have to do is be half awake and pay attention and work with your career center. And, GE is going to come, and, here comes, PricewaterhouseCooper and Deloitte and IBM and Amazon. And, it's all right there. I mean, where can you get that much attention in any other job seeker channel? There is none. There's no way to get that much attention in a concise period of time. Some people shoot for the moon and want to go to the best program. And I'll tell you that that's a risky strategy, and here's why. If you're the 30th percentile of Yale, then the companies want everyone else. So there's a little bit of a risk there. Like, how good of a school do you want to get into? Yes, it will challenge you. But if you think about this strategically, you're trying to get hired and trying to get a better job than you had before. I mean, that's the short-term outcome. The long-term view is the network, right? So some of the schools do a way better job of maintaining their alumni than others. And, so if I'm this age right now, right, and I don't have an MBA, I'm not going. I'm not going right now, because the loss of income going back, the cost of the school, and what the job I'm going to get coming out of the day program versus the job I already have, I'm upside down in almost all cases.
I appreciate Ewing bringing up his view on how to make the most of getting an MBA and when it is not worth it. The value of getting an MBA is something that is widely debated and something that people seem to be divided on. Some think it provides knowledge and opportunity worth the investment, and others find it unnecessary. Ewing brings up great points regarding pursuing an MBA. If you are going to attend school full-time in a case like him where he's going straight from his bachelor's degree for your MBA, there is a high potential for getting recruited to a great company. If you are getting your MBA on the side while working, for the most part it is probably not worth it. Being a full-time MBA student allows you to interact with all of these companies working on outbound recruiting, providing you immense opportunity to find a great job. Companies like Amazon literally come on campus and reach out to you almost like someone selling knives in a Costco. If you are getting an MBA on your company's dime or at night in hopes it is going to move you forward, it's probably not worth the investment, purely because you do not have the opportunity to be outbound recruited. In 2 years, he was able to double his salary through getting his MBA. That also won't happen if you go back to school to get an MBA. One thing that I saw you gained when you were at Cummins that I think is just as valuable as an MBA, if not more valuable, probably more valuable, was a Six Sigma black belt. So could you briefly explain what the Six Sigma system is, and then also what the best aspects, the most important aspects of your black belt are?
You might be the only one that's ever read my whole background. So coming out of procurement, eventually, as a 25-year-old, I got bored with that job. And the ticket out of my group, if you will, was if you become a Six Sigma black belt, then when you're done with that role, you become a free agent, and it's one of the most highly sought after skill sets internally. Now, Cummins has a different approach, and it's built on the old GE model from the 90s.
Jack Welch.
A black belt is a full-time job. A black belt is like an MBA. It's a 2-year assignment, and all you work on is Six Sigma projects. Sigma represents standard deviation. And so standard deviation is how far something is from the norm. So what you're doing is you're using a robust methodology and some mathematical tools and modeling software to fix processes, find out what's wrong with them, put control plans in place to make them better so they don't revert back to the mean, right? We call it reverting back to the norm. And wildly successful at Cummins. Our old chairman from the late 90s and early 2000s said that I think data point was either $1 billion or $2 billion impact total from Six Sigma over 10, 15 years. That saved the company. And it allowed the company to invest and really diversify. Cummins was an engine company in the 90s. It was even called Cummins Diesel Engine Company. It is so far from that today. 5 or even 6 lines of business, and probably more than that if you look deeper underneath. So Six Sigma is now used across all the functions, not just in the manufacturing environments. It really was born out of there. The way that Toyota manufactures cars, Lean, Kaizen, whatever you want to call it, they're all close cousins of each other. It's like Agile. There's Scrum, and there's other sub-methodologies to Agile. So it's really just being disciplined about inputs and outputs and measurement systems. But the key is, it is a full-time role, not a certification because you happen to save $1 million. Most organizations treat Six Sigma like a badge, and Cummins treats it like an MBA. Very, very different. And a lot of the one of the hottest backgrounds you can have in external recruiting market is a Cummins Master Black Belt. If you're a Master Black Belt, then you can teach Six Sigma rather than just execute. And those folks command a premium in the market because of that skill set.
Six Sigma Black Belt is one of the most desirable skill sets for an organization. Sigma is standard deviation, or how far it is from the norm. You study processes in an organization and figure out how to improve them. Over 10 or 15 years, Cummins, the organization that Ewing worked at, saved $1 billion or two from implementing Six Sigma, and it allowed Cummins to diversify into different markets. Born out of manufacturing with Toyota and then brought into the spotlight by Jack Welch and GE, the real focus is being disciplined about inputs and outputs and measurements. Six Sigma is also not for remedying a problem. It should be constantly applied. Most people treat it like a badge, but good companies treat it like an MBA because they understand the value in applying it.
So what do you think is more valuable, the Six Sigma Black Belt or the MBA?
Oof. Well, the MBA got me there. The Six Sigma was something I got once I was already there. So for my career path, the MBA was more valuable. In terms of what I do at work every day, maybe Six Sigma is more valuable.
Okay.
It's tough. It's a really tough. It's tough to have a black and white answer to that question. There's a lot of nuance there, but that's the way I would answer it for myself.
At the end of the day, an MBA is better for getting you in the door, and Six Sigma is better for real-world everyday business applications. This outlook also applies to other degrees and certifications. They are ultimately used as some form of a standardized key opening the door to opportunity by proving some prerequisites of some sort rather than providing knowledge used for daily real-world business applications.
Now you're with IBM, working with Watson, helping HR and IT leaders. Could you exactly explain what you're doing with HR and IT leaders with IBM Watson?
Yeah, so we've transformed as an HR organization over the last 3 or 4 years to the tune of over $100 million saving every single year. So business outcomes are there, user experiences are up, NPS scores are up. And so what Watson is doing is basically executing jobs that people are not good at, don't like to do, and happen often. That's where we started. That's the safest place to start in adopting AI. Happens all the time. Humans hate it, and they're not good at it. There was an old saying, people are bad at boring jobs. Boring is subjective to the individual. You might love a job that I hate. You're going to be good at it. I'm probably not going to be that good at it. Now, some people are good at everything, and there's polymaths out there. But when you look at a job seeker and you think about an organization the size of us, how many jobs do we have posted at any given time? It's always in the thousands. E&Y, always in the thousands, right? And other organizations. And even when it's in the hundreds, you get to the point as a job seeker where you can't read them all. So how do you shop? You shop on job title. How reflective of the job is job title? Not that much. And so because we don't have this standardization, and because things mean different things to different organizations, I'll give you a prime example. Account executive. We all think we know what that means. Some companies, it means you're going to spend all day hunting for new clients, and you better not get caught talking to an existing client, because that's account management. In some organizations, you do both. You have a book of business, you are an account manager for those customers, and you hunt net new. And for some organizations, this is a little more rare. An account executive is an account executive. They only work on installed accounts. So that title can be wildly different. And you have to read the job description to find out what it is. So that's a process that humans are bad at because it's really boring. And you don't have time to read them all. So we taught Watson how to read them all. So Watson reads them all and uses a taxonomy of basically it's a proprietary data set to match to. So the job seeker now gets a stack ranked version of the whole career site by their fit based on just a simple resume upload. And then you go into the recruiter experience. We have a product called, I just learned recently that one of our highest rated portions of our recruiter experience is Watson News. And I was surprised by that. So Watson News is basically, think of Watson as watching the whole internet.
Okay.
And consuming everything that's happening. And so if you want to know what's going on with Toyota, we have a perspective on that. Watson has a perspective on that. We've got every article that ever mentioned Toyota collected and analyzed. Sentiment analysis. Was it positive or negative? Right? And we serve that up to the recruiters because we already had that product in another part of our business. They love it because now they're able to use that information in recruiting conversations. We also have Glassdoor natively integrated, so you have all that information. We love that partnership with Glassdoor. So all that information is side by side along with Twitter. When I first came in, I didn't think that was the best part of the product. I thought it was more of the stack ranking of every applicant in the pool. But actually, I'm starting to learn that recruiters are saving a lot of time and really value that information. It's making their conversations easier.
IBM is saving $100 million per year in HR functions using Watson AI to figure out jobs that are unnecessary or can be replaced. Along with that, Watson can find someone that would be the best fit for a job. As he said, something becomes a job when it is boring or something that they don't have passion in, and the job role is not boring to everyone. So it's important to find the right person to place in that role. He also brings up a great point regarding the standardization of job role and expectations of prior experience. If an organization can focus on finding someone who is truly the best fit for the specific role rather than deciding on a standardized set of prerequisites they think dictate the capabilities of the potential employee, it provides value to the organization. It increases employee engagement, job performance, and so much more. I have always agreed with this when it comes to those who hire from specific schools, degrees, or required experience. All three do not define an individual's ability or fit when it comes to the job. It only possibly saves the organization time short term, and it provides no value in the long run.
When I was at Cummins, your network was your direct correlation to your next job. And, if you played in the company basketball league, which I got advised to do, you're bound to meet a vice president. If you play in the golf league, which I was advised to do, you're bound to meet another business leader. And the best thing I ever did was get involved in college recruiting. College recruiting changed my career because going back, every college at Cummins had a vice president as a sponsor. So just being involved in campus recruiting gets you exposed to leadership, and exposure is everything, whether it's in sales or your own career.
Ewing brings up another great point about networking through playing in the basketball and golf league. Doing this provided the exposure to VPs and other leadership in his organization, which opened the doors to so much opportunity, assisting in propelling his career forward. Networking and fostering relationships is so valuable, and you should be aware of opportunities to do so. Involving yourself in communities and activities, understanding the relationships that can be built from it, can be an effective use of time that provides value beyond the activity or community.
So with IBM Watson and other different forms of AI, automation, and robotics, how do you think the job industry is going to be affected over the next, say, 20 or 30 years? A lot of things are negative, but to be honest with you, the things you've brought up with Watson, it sounds like there's a lot of positive aspects of it as well.
Yeah, there are. Certainly with all change, when automobiles came out, the horse carriage folks were throwing a fit. When airplanes came out, the train owners hated it. So we keep doing this to ourselves, and we keep creating new jobs. So there's a lot of jobs going away, but there's even more jobs being created, and that's what some say. So there's always going to be those two sides of the argument. What I see, is that, and both from being exposed to IBM now as an employee, but even as an outsider, is that AI very rarely so far replaces a whole job. It replaces a part of a job. So as long as that continues to be the case, then, it replaces parts of the job, and then you evolve to a different job.
Ewing also brought up a point regarding AI automation in the job market that is more positive than what you hear from most. As presidential candidate Andrew Yang discussed on Joe Rogan's podcast, AI and automation is going to kill entire job markets like trucking. As Ewing said, as new jobs and technology replaces old jobs, it leaves certain people with a bad taste in their mouth due to their personal situation. These people become loud critics, understanding the dilemma they personally have, but don't necessarily have valid logic when it comes to our whole society. What Ewing believes is going to happen is it's going to create more job opportunities, new job roles, and find the best employees for a specific role. AI and automation will drive innovation, creating necessity for new jobs. Along with that, AI never entirely replaces a job, it only replaces certain aspects of the job. A human still must facilitate and complete certain aspects of the job role. Most likely, the certain aspects of the job that are handled through automation are the less exciting aspects of the job, which will leave professionals to focus on aspects that are more important or innovative along with what they are passionate about, sparking their interest to take on the job in the first place. For example, when you free up HR from having to do regulation or process-based work that automation will replace, it allows HR professionals to focus more on people interactions and concepts like employee engagement or company culture. We are grateful you took the time to listen to our conversation and hope it makes a positive impact in your life. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening or watching it, check out other episodes, leave a review, and follow us on social media at More You Know Pod. Also, please don't forget about our sweepstakes. Retweet a clip with the hashtag The More You Know and New Podcast from our Twitter for a chance to win a signed copy of my upcoming book, The More You Know, coming this fall. Tag 2 friends in the comments on a clip on Instagram for a chance to win a brand new copy of Dean Graziosi's Millionaire Mindset or Ed Milet's Max Out. Like us or share a clip on Facebook for a chance to win a book I have read that highly inspired me, signed by me with an inspirational message. Again, thank you for listening as we propel with podcasting through the More You Know.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
The
More
You
No
Podcast.